Hey everybody, happy Monday, or whatever day you're watching this. I have several decks for you to be able to climb the standard ladder, bronze through gold, above 50% win rate, less than 5,000 dust, all regions, and these are for beginner players. I'm going to go over some tips and tricks for a couple of decks. To go over before we show any of the decks right now, let's talk about the win rates. Remember, the patch was released on Thursday. It's shaking things up a bit. You know, when I'm looking at the win rates column, and listen, this is just based on what HS Replay has. It's not a full, complete list. It says Hunter, Warrior, and Paladin are the only three with an average win rate above 50%. Of course, that's incorrect. If you start digging into the data more, each one of the classes do have at least one, if not several, especially if you're doing bronze through gold, several decks. Each one of them is above 50% win rate, so that's good. But we're going to go over a couple of them in case you're not sure what you're going to play. I do have a Sludge Warlock. I have a looks like a Secret Hunter, yes, and then a Dragon Druid, and we'll go over tips and tricks for each one of those. Let's talk about Dragon Druid. This one I have not seen in this shape or form ever, based on what I've seen in the past. There's some changes here, but we're going to go into those changes. This deck is 4,240 dust. It's a 65.7% win rate. To go through the deck, it is dragons, it is druid. It's not a complete dragon druid like we've been seeing the past few weeks and weeks before that. There's a few different cards in here. So number one, we have Cactus Construct in here. It's a discover a 2-cost minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. This will help you with the early game. Because a lot of the dragons are above 3 mana. You got a 2-mana fairy dragon in here, but it can be absolutely helpful for you in the early game. Living Roots, that's the nature spell. Choose one, deal 2 damage, or summon 2 1/1 saplings. This is helpful for you to put something on the board and then potentially do some damage early game. With the size of the opponent's minions recently, I don't know what this would do, maybe besides to break a divine shield. This one is not a huge mega ultra busted card, so remember that. Dragon Tails here. This one is a good card for the situation. So this has a choose one, get 2 random dragons that cost 5 or less, or get 2 that cost more than 5. You want to use this card to get more dragons, and depending on where you're getting this, if you're really not drawing dragons in the beginning, go ahead and grab those 2 random ones that are costing 5 or less. If you do have some on your hand and you need more of them, and you do have some time after turn 5, definitely go in and grab the ones that cost more than 5. It's all situationally from what you're dealing with at the time, what your opponent has, what have you. Fairy Dragon has elusive. The reason this one's so good is, except for AoE, the opponent has to have something on board to kill it. So you could do some fun stuff with Mark of the Wild. You can give that minion taunt and +2/+3 to make it even more difficult. You have 2 fairy dragons in here. Remember though, if it's AoE, a 3/2 is not going to last too long. So if at all possible, if you're looking to have something sticky on board so you can prepare for the next couple, try to see if you can put that with Mark of the Wild. Mark of the Wild obviously can be used on everything. So Splish Splash Whelp is Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, gain an empty mana crystal. Ramping Mana is good. It's one of the staples of the Druid class, so it is a card that will help you be able to make a stronger turn even earlier. You have 2 of those. You have Frost Lotus Seedling, draw 1 card, gain 5 armor, and then it blossoms, and the blossom means it's staying in your hand. Some people try to mulligan this out as quickly as possible. What I normally would do in these scenarios, depending on what my opponent is, if I know that I'm going to need some more armor, I'll absolutely mulligan this in. Swipe. Swipe is a very core card. Deal 4 damage to an enemy, 1 damage to all other enemies. This will be helpful for you in the early game. It might help you a little bit in the late game. It's situational. I'm not saying that this is the be-all end-all card. There's several options that you can switch out for things. We'll talk to that. Take to the Skies. This one's a very good card. Draw 2 dragons. Give them both +1/+1. So you need dragon draw. This is what the deck is about. Cool thing is there's a couple of dragons that you want as heavy as possible, as strong and as beefy as possible. So this is a good card for you to be able to do that. One of them is Desert Nest Matron, only for the simple fact is it's a taunt. So the opponent will have to clear that taunt to get to you. And it's Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, refresh 4 mana crystals. This is one of the good broken dragon cards that we saw from Druid, and this has been a very popular card since it came out. And what this will do is, this gives you the ability to play multiple cards in just turn 4. So you can swing the game as early as turn 4, and then obviously it's giving you that refreshed 4 mana crystals, so you can do some awesome combos with it. Spine-tailed Drake is also a good card for the situation. If you're holding a dragon, deal 5 damage to an enemy minion. The good thing is, I think this card would be absolutely broken if it was anything other than file damage to an enemy minion. I do think it's a strong card with it being just a common, a 4 mana 5/4. It's doing damage, then you have something on the board. Time Lost Proto-Drake Taunt, that's another one that you're going to want to, if potential, do the +1/+1 or what have you. And then when you add this, add a random dragon to your hand. When you draw this, excuse me. So definitely don't mulligan for this. Make sure that you have these in your deck as much as possible so you can get that extra random dragon. Twilight Drake, Battlecry, gain +1 health for each card in your hand. Obviously, you don't want to put this in, throw this out on board when you have nothing in hand. If you can help it, because a 4/1 is very easy for your opponent to beat the heck out of. Dragon Golem is one of the strongest cards, I feel. Besides, Desert Nest Matron and Spine-tailed Drake. This one, it's taunt. It's fine. It's a 3/4. But if you have a lot of dragons, it's going to summon a copy for each dragon in your hand. So you could, if you're doing it correctly, you could have a full board of these dragon golems. It's helpful if you did, the Take to the Skies and made it even stronger. We've seen this, and when you're looking at the older Dragon Druid comps, there was ways to buff your hand. So this, this Dragon Golem would be huge, be very difficult for your opponent to get. Fi the Setting Sun. Rush, Lifesteal, and Taunt cost 1 less for each dragon you summon this game. You could play this as early as turn 5. I wouldn't play it any earlier than turn 5. Me personally, depending on what you're fighting, everybody's different. So your play style could be a little bit more aggressive, a little more conservative, but this swings thing, this helps, especially if it has a little bit more armor, a little bit more health. You can make some stronger swings and give yourself the health that you need. Last up, Ysera, 9 mana 4/12 dragon, and at the end of your turn, get 2 random dream cards. And to go over this, every single one of these dream cards is good. Nightmare gives a minion +5/+5 at the start of your next turn. Destroy it. You can make something swingy. You're gonna kill it, but you can make something very strong. You've got to return a minion to its owner's hand, so you can get those. Get any of the other synergies that you want from the dragons that are on board. Laughing Sisters, 3/5 elusive, great card for 2 mana. Ysera Awakens, deal 5 damage to all characters except Ysera. And Emerald Drake, which is a 4 mana 7/6. So this is a great card for you to be playing as well. And the cool thing is, it's in core, so it's a free card that you already have. So while I'm not saying that this is a bad deck, this is something to play, there is potential for you to make some changes to this deck. One of the things that I would do is go to your system and then just type in dragon. and you have so many options to choose from. Chia Drake I wouldn't really use because it's got spell damage. That's what most of that is. But besides that, you've got Raystraza. No, that Raystraza wouldn't work. Pay attention, pretend I didn't say anything there. But there's a lot of dragons here. This gift wrapped whelp, if you're holding a dragon, give it and this minion +1/+1, help buff those minions. You've got cards can't cost less than 2, which really helps your opponent, hinders your opponent from doing anything crazy busted. Get a random card from your starting hand. For the Starlight Whelp, there's a lot of dragons that you can put into this. You've got Sunspot Dragon, you've got Stone Drake with Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Elusive. So that's what I would do. Like I said, I don't feel that Cactus Construct is an absolute keep. I don't feel that Living Roots is going to be a huge major, card that you need to do. So that's 4 options right there that you can put in. The Dragon Druid of old did not have a lot of any other spells in it. It was really just dragon cards. So if you sat there and worked out something to have a little bit more armor with like Frost Lotus Seedling and then the Take to the Skies or what have you, took everything else and put more dragons in, it's going to be a strong deck. Whether you survive, like I said, it all depends on what your opponent's playing. But definitely try this out, especially it's not very expensive on the mana, and it is pretty fun to play. Next up, we're going Secret Hunter, and this one is a 59% win rate with 3,660 dust cost. This one is pretty straightforward. This is good. It doesn't need a lot of trial and error to figure this out. It's very straightforward. If you haven't played Hunter a lot, this should really be a good way to enter into the Hunter's realm in terms of play style. So essentially, there's a lot of secrets in here, and a lot of secrets are a good thing for you, a bad thing for your opponent. And to get through them, we're just going to go over all the cards and what type of synergies you should work for. Number 1 is Awakening Tremors. Get 3/3/1 worms. They cost 1. There's some fun stuff that you can do with these, so I would absolutely consider mulliganing for this card because it might not stay long because they're 3/1s, but the idea is you're putting pressure on your opponent. Your opponent now will see a 3/1 worm on the board, and then you might have a secret or two and start getting nervous. So you're creating pressure for them as to where you're not sitting there trying to react to what they're doing. So a little bit of psychological warfare, if you will. Costume Singer is a good card. It's a fun card. It has an awesome voice line. At the end of your turn, draw a secret. That's why you want this out. You want this out to grab those secrets. You want to start putting in the secrets as much as possible. And remember, some of the secrets will also help you with Awakening Treasures if you want to keep them on the board. We'll go into that later on. Sneaky Snakes is the same thing. Pressure on your opponent's board. There's a couple of other fun things that you can do with this based on what you have, but you'd like to have 1 or 2 items on the board if at all possible, even if it's just a 1/1 with stealth. Remember, these will not last if your opponent has AoE. So if you know what your opponent is about to play and they have a very easy AoE comp where there's several spells that they have in their hand, maybe just be advised that you might lose these stealth snakes with anything AoE. Thornmantle Musician. Make sure you do this on the finale. The next beast you summon gets +1/+1. This will be helpful in the future. Bait and switch. So this is a reason why it's good to put Awakening Tremors out. One of those 3/1 worms. It's on the board. If you have Bait and Switch as one of your secrets, when a friendly minion is attacked, give it +3/+3. So that's a bigger minion, absolutely, that you can start fighting whoever your opponent is trying to throw at you. So it's an option there for you to be, keeping a bigger thing on board with that type of interaction. Hidden Meaning is another good secret. When your opponent in their turn with no mana, summon a random 3-cost minion. It gets something on the board. It's very easy, depending on what your opponent is playing, for them to be able to pick off these little 3/1s and 3/2s and, those smaller minions. So making sure you always have something on the board so he's focusing on that could give you the possibility to, work around ramp up or something like that. That might help you win the game. Quick Shot, deal 3 damage if your hand is empty, draw a card. It's going to suck if your hand is empty. You never want your hand to be empty, but if it does, you got Quick Shot to help you. Deal 3 damage, not bad, 3 damage for 2 mana, and it goes ahead and draws you a card if you have your hand being empty. It's a good thing. Titan Forge Traps. This is a powerful card here. So discover and cast a secret, and if you forge it, you discover and cast 2 secrets. So there's a lot of secret options that you have to work with. Work it out situationally. Depending on what you're playing, depending on what you're facing, depending on what's on your opponent's side, depending on what's in your side, what's your next couple of turns in, just remember that. It all depends on what's going on at the time. Don't just say, always pick X or always pick Y. It's going to be different each and every time, so just put it out and do it situationally. But please, 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 make sure you forge this card. Absolutely. It would be silly for you not to have that benefit of having both of those secrets, because again, you're just putting pressure on your opponent and keeping your opponent figuring out what secrets has he got. What is this? What is this? It'll be difficult for your opponent to try to figure out exactly what you're doing, so you can build up more strategy of what you're planning on doing to hit your opponent in the face multiple times. So, Elemental Companion. Summon a random Elemental Companion. It's a very, very cheap spell for you to have something, again, we've talked about it, on board. Make that pressure your opponent's problem, not your problem. Okay? Kill Command, great card. Not only is it a great card, it's got great art. It's deal 3 damage, and if you control a beast, deal 5 damage instead. 5 mana damage for 3 mana. I'll take that any day of the week. And again, the card art kicks butt. Camouflage Mount is give a minion +3/+3 and a random bonus effect. When it dies, summon a chameleon. So you want something to do with those 3/1 worms? Use this. You want something to do with any of maybe the sneaky snakes, you could sit there and do that. Make it stronger. The bonus effect will be helpful. It could be anything from rush to poison or what have you, just the normal keywords. And then listen, when it dies, you're summoning a chameleon. So you'll have something else on board. They'll have to destroy 2 things in order to clear your board. Dragon Bane. 4 mana 3/5 mech. After you use your hero power, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. You're going to be wanting to use your hero power as much as possible. You want to do that. And then also use this when you have something, 1 or 2 things on your opponent's board, and to kill those, or obviously use it to hit your opponent in the face, 5 damage just for using hero power. So don't plan on this card being on board for too long. Barak Kodobane. So this battle cry is draw 1, 2, and 3 cost spell. And, this right now is in the core set. It's very useful for you to be able to grab, one of your spells, 1 mana, one of your spells for 2 mana, one of your spells for 3 mana. It's just using it depending on what you have in your hand already or what you have in your deck right now. And it's a 3/5 that you can throw on the board. Leroy Jenkins, listen, 5 mana, 6/2. You can go ahead and yes, you're going to have those 2 1/1 whelps for your opponent, but you can use this for a late turn swing that's going to maybe, completely eradicate your opponent's health. I would, use this situationally. I usually wait to not use this for anything but my opponent's face, but your mileage may vary. Lesser Emerald Spellstone. So this one is a good card in terms of what it can do for the future. What does this deck do? This deck plays a lot of spells. Okay, so one of the things that you want to do is have these secrets to play, and it's going to upgrade these. So instead of 2 3/3 wolves, it'll be 3 3/3 wolves. And if you do another secret, it'll be 4 3/3 wolves. Just building that pressure for your opponent is where it's at. We've already said that until we're blue in the face. Next up, Agrimar. This Titan is pretty fun, and this Titan gives you the 3/3 Taladash, and I'm going to say that completely wrong, because I usually say that completely wrong, but this gives you, 3 abilities, and the 3 abilities is to maintain order, so give your weapon after your hero attacks, draw a card, so situationally card draw. Commanding Presence, after give your weapon after your hero attacks, summon a 3/3 Enforcer with Taunt, so keeping something on the board so your opponent's not hitting you in the face. Swift Slash, give your weapon +2 attack and your hero is immune while attacking. So if there's some heavy things that you need to kill that's on your opponent's side, make yourself immune. You know, these are all situational pieces. Remember, it's very easy for Talisash or Lash or whatever you want to call it. It's very easy for this to go away if they have the snake thing that destroys the weapon. So just remember that. It's still around. It's still happening. It's still a nuisance, but it's useful when you need it and you have it. And then there's that 3/3 taunt that will go onto the board. So this is something that you've probably already received right now. You know, this deck is not a huge expensive deck because you don't have to pay for Dragonbane, you don't have to pay for Brock. Those are both in core. Let's finish the last one, and you also don't have to pay for Leroy. So this is a much cheaper deck than what I'm telling you right now. Starstrung Bow is the last card in this, and it's a weapon, and you have 2 of them. And the thing is, it's cost 1 less for each friendly secret that has triggered this game. 5/2 is a good weapon, especially for less than 6 mana. You're going to pay less because you're going to use all those secrets. I would try this deck if you haven't messed around with Hunter. There is more refined Hunter decks out there, but unfortunately it says that Hunter's very high up on the win rates, but also Hunter has some very expensive decks. So you can use this as a start. This is not a very expensive deck whatsoever, and then what you'll do is you'll be able to add pieces to it as needed. Listen, there's some great beasts that you can add to this to make it stronger. You have star power. Every one of these cards that are hunters would fit in here in some way, shape, or form. It's not going to be a secret hunter anymore, but it would absolutely help. You're running out of if you're running out of health all the time, use Hollow Hound. There's ways that you can sit there and put Hollow Hound out there, and then this card is amazing when you go ahead and you do it with Camouflage Mount, because this could reinvigorate your health completely. Lots of cool things that you can do with this deck. Give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments of this Secret Hunter combo. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Sludge Warlock. Unless you've been playing yesterday and you just started, you've seen Sludge Warlock. I've not dug in deep into the details of how to play this deck ever, so I figured I'd spend some time going over that. This deck has a 56.6% win rate, and it's at 4,680 dust. It is very easy to tech out pieces of this deck to make yourself even more stronger if you have the extra dust. There's a lot of pieces you can put into this deck, but I just wanted to go through to show you what you were trying to do. And what you're trying to do is kill your opponent with Sludge. So the Sludge is from this one right here, Barrel of Sludge. So there's several things that you can do that's going to get you these Barrel of Sludges, and then when this is played, discarded, or destroyed, deal 4 damage to the lowest health enemy. Usually it's helping for minions on the board, but if you don't have a lot of minions, or your opponent doesn't have a lot of minions on the board, it's going to go to the opponent's face and it will creep up on that opponent. So let's get into the deck. Okay, first up, Miracle Salesman. Miracle Salesman got a bit of a nerf. We know that happened just recently. It used to be a 0 mana snake oil, and now it's a 1 mana snake oil. So I don't know if I would sit there and run to, put this in the deck. There's several things that you can do if you don't have this, but it's useful for the fact is listen, you're not caring about the 1 mana or the trade. You just want the tradable part. You want to be able to get things out of your deck as needed. It's still in here. It's been in here for the past 3 days when I pulled up this deck. So there's got to be a rhyme or reason. It can be swapped out. A monstrous form. Give a friendly minion +3/+3 until your next turn. This is good for the fact is it doesn't cost you a lot of dust to craft this. There's other suggestions that you can add into this Sludge Warlock deck that I would consider instead of this one, but there is some minions in here, especially the Sludge on Wheels. You want the minion to be as heavy as possible, so you could sit there and do several items with that, make it +3/+3, what have you. Tram mechanic. Death rattle is get a barrel of sludge, toxic waste, handle with care, blah, 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 blah. You just want those barrel of sludges. That's all that matters. Cool thing is you could, put this out turn 1 and then boom. No one's going to waste anything other than let's kill this minion so you at least have 1 sludge that you can deal with. Baritone Imp. Battle Cry. Take fatigue damage. Gain that much attack and health. You're going to take fatigue damage. You're going to take as much as possible, as much as you can handle, because, obviously this one will help you if you're taking fatigue damage. If you want to sit there, there's at least one other ones with Craze Conductor, take fatigue damage, summon that many 3/3 imps. A lot of things that you could do with fatigue damage. Don't worry about that too much. This is very, very easy for you to win games very fast. Okay, Crescendo, take fatigue damage. They deal that much damage to all enemies. So again, we're talking about this. Fatigue damage adds up. So you could be able to do some fun stuff with all of these, especially if you're able to take whatever fatigue damage you get and deal that much to all enemies. And you have 2 of those. And you have 2 Baritone Imp. Disposal Assassin. There's another one. Put a barrel of sludge on the bottom of your deck. Battle Cry and Death Rattle. So there's 2 extra barrel of sludges there. And we're going to want them on the bottom of our deck for very, very specific reasons you'll be able to see later. Furnace Fuel. When this is played, discarded, or destroyed, draw 2 cards. You're okay with this being on the bottom of your deck because you're going to do some fun stuff with it, and then you're going to draw cards instead of. Sludge on Wheels. This is one that you could work on making it bigger or what have you. Sludge on Wheels is fun for this. It's a rush. Whenever this takes damage, get a barrel of sludge and add 1 to the bottom of your deck. That's what you want. You want to build those sludge barrels as much as possible. Because remember, this is going to get a barrel of sludge and add 1 to the bottom of your deck. You're going to have 1 in your hand, and then you're going to have 1 in the bottom of your deck that you could use later. Trog Gem Tosser. The finale is the most important part of this. Deal 1 damage to a random enemy for each of your mana crystals. So you can do some nutty stuff with this, especially if you're higher up on the amount of mana, depending on your turns, if you will. Trolley Problem. Discard your lowest cost spell. Summon 2 3/3 tram cards with Rush. Quick draw, don't discard. So obviously, don't mulligan this. Keep this in there. It would be great if you discard your lowest cost spell, because your lowest cost spell could potentially be the Barrel of Sludge. And then this is when this is played, discarded or destroyed, deal 4 damage to the lowest health enemy. That's what you want to do with this, okay? And then look, 3/3 Trom cards with Rush is good to hit your opponent in the face. Not the face, your opponent's minions in the face. Craze Conductor, Battle Cry, take fatigue damage, summon that many 3/3 imps. There's the one that we talked about. This was something that would be helpful based on how much fatigue damage you have. Forge of Wills is choose a friendly minion, summon a giant and its stats, and Rush. So whatever you have on the board, you can go ahead and use Forge of Wills to make a friendly minion copy of it with Rush, depending on what the stats are of that. Gloomstone Guardian, Taunt. Choose 1, discard 2 cards, or destroy 1 of your mana crystals. And if you forge it, do neither. So what do you want to do? You want to make sure you're forging this thing. Discard 2 cards is depending on what you have in your hand or what have you. But the great thing would be a 6/8 taunt that you can throw out for 4 mana, and it doesn't do any of these crazy stuff because you forged it. Yeah, forge this and then use it later on. Popgar the Putrid. So this is where things change a little bit. This is why I said don't go too crazy on what the health is, because your fell spells cost 2 less and have lifesteal, and the battle cry is to get 2 barrels of sludge. So listen, this is going to help you with 1 mana, deal 4 damage, and then have lifesteal. So this is a great card that you can use when you need health. You don't even need to make sure that all of your barrels of sludge will give you lifesteal, just enough for you to be able to hit 1-2 more turns. Do some fun stuff with that. You're going to do some fun stuff with that because the thing that you're looking for is Waste Remover. And Waste Remover is just a 4 mana 5/7 that at the end of your turn destroys the bottom 3 cards of your deck. The bottom 3 cards of your deck would be useful because they're all barrel of sludges with everything that you've done, and then you're just doing continuously 4 tick damage to your opponent. And then bottom it out with Chaos Creation, 6-mana fail spell. Deal 5 damage, summon a random 5-cost minion, destroy the bottom 5 cards of your deck. Hopefully you've got all those Barrel of Sludges in the bottom of your deck, so do some heavy damage. There's some tweaks that you have to make to this deck. If you want to, I have some options here for you. I'd like to go over a couple of them. There's definitely some situations that you can do. Okay, so number one, you got Flame Imp just to put some pressure on the board. I love this card. And it is helpful just if you need something to throw out on the deck and you don't have Tram Mechanic, or you don't want to use this Miracle Salesman, just to put something on the board. Remember, if you don't use Miracle Salesman, you have the possibility you're not going to get that tradable for the card draw, but you also have your hero power, and your hero power does draw cards. Gul'dan's Gift is an important card here for the utility of where you're at, what have you. Number one, Twisting Nether. If your opponent has a crazy board that you're not going to be able to get through, Twisting Nether will destroy all the minions. Siphon Soul will go ahead and do the restore 3 health to your hero and destroy a minion, so if you have a heavy minion that way. And then Mortal Coil is fun because deal 1 damage to a minion. If that kills it, draws a card. Remember, these are temporary copies. Don't fool yourself thinking that, oh, I can use this and just keep it in my hand. No, and I've realized that it says temporary. It's going to go away as soon as you hit your next turn. Okay. Here's another one here too. Fracking. I'm surprised Fracking's not in here, and it should be. Look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck. Draw 1 and destroy the others. You know what Barrels of Sludge do? If you destroy them, they do damage to your opponent. So this is a good card as well. One other one I wanted to go into. The other one, deal 4 damage to a minion in your hero. I like this one of how big the damage is and how much it costs. It is going to hit you pretty hard, so don't go crazy with it, but it's just something to throw in there because some of these minions that you're fighting are going to be pretty heavy these days. There's no real, decks that have not very small minions. They're all huge right now. There's several other things that you can do with this deck. I'm going to go through. You could throw, you've got 2 disposal assistants. You don't need any more. Defile's pretty fun. Defile's pretty fun, especially if you're doing the Sludge on Wheels, because that's really going to hit your opponent many, many times. I mean, it's going to get you the actual Barrel of Sludges. It's going to get you a lot of those if you do Defile. And then the last one would be Reverberations. I like Reverberations because it's helpful when your opponent has something crazy heavy on the board. You just summon a copy of it. It could be a Titan that you can go ahead and make some fun stuff to and actually work in your favor. You could do interactions with those cards that you're making a copy of, and then you could just sit there and ping one with one of your other spells or what have you, or one of your other minions, and then just kills that opponent's minion. Not going to last too long, but at least it gets that big minion off the board. That's all I got for this week, and I have some plans here. Because we're not seeing a lot of additional decks or new decks right now, I'm going to start going into the core cards. I've already started working on it. I'm going to start putting together what core cards are best for X, Y, and Z classes. I'll have a little bit of that in the next video here. And then, of course, the last 3 videos that I've done of this nature for the budget deck series, they all have decks that you could use right now, and all of these decks are in my playlist, obviously, and then all of the decks that I've talked about today are in the description below, and I will see you all in the next video.